Today what I want to show you is how to create model trees using these pre-formed tree armatures from Woodland Scenics. Now, what I like to show you guys is the troubles that I've come in with all of my model railroading techniques, how I've come to determine what I'm going to use and how to change things. And hopefully it'll fit your layout and give you different options. Some of the options that I've done for myself in trying to figure this stuff out on my own, I've ended up coming into problems trying to figure out how to adapt for them, and I'm trying to show you guys how to do this stuff so that you guys hopefully don't have to go through those trials that I have. Now, what I'm going to show you here is I've got 4 armatures here. This is going to be, these are all Woodland Scenics products. These are all Woodland Scenics armatures. You can buy them in these bags here, and I'll show you right here. This is going to be the bag that I've got. It's going to be tree armatures. Now, this is going to be, it says various sizes or various types and sizes for any scale. This is going to be 5 to 7 inches. I don't know if you can read that, but it's 5 to 7 inches. Now, that's going to be this tree armature here. Now, what I'm going to show you here is these were the original 2 that I had bought for my layouts, and I had put those on my layout, and I scattered them periodically through my scenes, and a mix of also puffball trees. I'll show you guys how to do those at a different time. But on these ones here, what I found is after I was done, they looked good. However, they looked relatively small compared to my locomotives. What I'll do is I'll show you here on the layout. As you can see here, what I'm talking about for these trees. These are the ones that I've already installed on the layout here. I've got a couple pine trees. I've got another tree right over here. And if you look at the size of these 2 trees compared to my locomotive here, my locomotive almost dwarfs these trees. Now, obviously in real life, in the real nature, you've got trees of all different sizes. All trees may be this, or trees may be this small compared to the locomotive. However, there are a lot of trees that are taller than them. And I'll show you with one of these armatures here, if you just compare the size difference. Alright, so just so you guys can see what the size difference is between this one and this one here when I put them both on the layout. 2 different total sizes. And this one, if I can trim this up, may work as a kind of a canopy over the locomotive as it goes through. So as you can see on the layout there, we've got couple variations. I'm showing you what I'm wanting to do, what I'm wanting to get out of this model or out of my scene. So what I'm going to show you here is how to create these trees and show you obviously what my situation was and why I'm getting these bigger ones. When you go to this hobby shop and you start looking, or you go online and start looking for tree armatures, it kind of gives you a comparison for your layout. Obviously mine's an HO scale here. So what I'm going to start with, I'm going to show you how to put the foliage on these tree armatures, because you get them just blank. You can buy pre-made. This is going to be Woodland Scenics as well, but this is Scene Dioramas or Scenaramas. It's the same version as if you go and get just regular Woodland Scenics from your hobby shop. This is going to be stuff that I found at Hobby Lobby. This is just going to be a generic one for people who are just making dioramas for classes and stuff like that. And when you pull the tree out of there, it's already a finished complete product, and that's what it's going to look like. And that'll be your pre-made tree. You're going to get a lot less pre-made trees for the cost that you will for a bag. So for starters, the first thing you're going to do is you can either choose to leave these feet on them, like on the layout if you just want to glue them down, or since I've got a foam bed here, I can go ahead and actually discard these. And I'll show you one of each way. Alright, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a pair of snippers here and I'm going to cut these off as close to the edge of my tree armature here. And then you'll cut the other end off, the other spur off here. You can also come in here with a hobby knife and clean these up. So what I'm talking about with these feet, you can just go ahead and push these feet into the bottom of these and they'll stand freely on their own. You just put some glue on the base here and then you just mount them. Or we can take the base off, and if I've got the foam here, I just push them into the foam and they'll stand on their own. So for my layout, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these, but I'm just going to keep them off to the side because like I said, I'm going to show you guys how to use those on your layout. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take these trees and we're going to go ahead and we're going to twist them. Basically, it doesn't have to matter which direction they're twisted, just want it to look somewhat like a tree. So I come in here and I'll twist the trunk of the tree, twist some of these branches around. And you want them to face in all different directions, so you got full complete coverage. And after I bend these, I'll go ahead and take the middle of the trunk and I'll just give it one big twist. And then I'll look around this whole armature here, see if there's anything left empty, which if you can see here, there's a hole in this section where I don't have a branch sticking out, so I'll bend one of these branches around over here, try to get myself some coverage. And that'll just basically be how I'm going to bend and rotate all these around. I want to bend these top pieces up here. Alright, now this arm here, if you can see this arm down here, it's too low for me. I don't like this arm as low as that is. So I'm here with my snippers, I'm just going to cut this this arm off and get rid of it. And as you can see, I've got a little bit of a lip here, but that's fine. That's going to just simulate that somebody pruned the tree here. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and bend the rest of these armatures here real quick. Alright, so now what you can see is I've gone ahead, I've bent up every single one of these trees. I'll go ahead and rotate these for you so you can see how that looks. A little small one. And this will be the pine tree here, and basically all I did on this one is I just grabbed the trunk and I rotated it, and it basically spun every one of these around. And then this one here. Now, obviously when you look at these, they look like they're going to be, you're going to have gaps, you're going to have openings where you don't want, or where foliage isn't going to sit. That's the best thing about this. So the way we glue these on is it's just going to stick to where we need it. Alright, so the next thing you're going to want to do is take your hobby tack. Now, I found hobby tack to actually be the best way to put this on here. It stays sticky on all the branches that you need. It doesn't run like regular Elmer's glue. And it also comes with a brush on the end of this thing. Now what we're going to go ahead and do is I'll take the hobby tack out. Don't need a lot. And what we're going to do is come on to the edges of the branches here, and we're just going to paint them. You don't want to do the trunks, you just want to do the tips of the branches. Alright, just look over your tree armatures here. Just make sure that you've got all these branches coated in your hobby tack glue. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and for now, I'm going to set them in the bases to dry or to tack up. You're not going to immediately want to apply your your Woodland Scenics brush and greenery on this yet. You want it to set up and give a couple of minutes to tack. Alright, now as you can see here, I've got the glue on each portion here, on all the armatures, on every side that I wanted them on. Now what you're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wait until the glue dries to clear consistency. You don't want to let it dry overnight, just until it's clear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check on this in about 15 minutes, and we'll come back and see where it's at. Alright, as you guys can tell here, the glue is, for the most part, turning clear. There's some spots of heavy glue that are still white. However, most of the glue seems to be pretty clear. Now what I'm going to do is just check to see how tacky this glue is. And what I'll do is I'll show you, I'll touch my finger on these armatures here. And they stick to my fingers. I can pick up this one, touch here, it sticks. And it's pretty tacky. So, this glue is ready to get started with putting the foliage on it and getting these trees completed here. Alright, what I'm going to want to do now is I'm going to want to go ahead, I've got a tub here. I just happen to use a basic Cool Whip tub. Make sure that it's empty, there's nothing in it, no residue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, I've got this underbrush. It's going to be Woodland Scenics underbrush. And basically what this is going to do is the consistency here. I'll show you. I'll pour just a little bit into here. As you can tell, it's just got a little bit of a rough consistency with it. Now I'm not going to use this for my bigger trees, the ones that I want a nice full look to. What I'm going to use this one for is my pine tree here. And it'll be this little small one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this pine tree and I'm going to put it into this area and I'm just going to rotate it. Rotate it around in there, and that glue, what it's going to do is it's going to pick up the little pieces. As you can tell right here. And that's all you got to do for these trees, is just put the little pieces on there. Now if you can see, I've got this one portion here that looks like it may be missing some, so I'm just going to stick this back in here, twist it a little bit, try to see if I can get a little bit more on it, and then pull off pieces that I don't like the look on. And that'll be done for this tree. And I'll just go ahead and I'll put it back at its base and set it off to the side. Now since that's the only pine tree that I'm going to be doing, I'm done with this. I can just go ahead and pour it back into my Woodland Scenic stuckware. Alright, now for these more luscious trees that I've got, the ones that I've got more area to cover, it's not just a stick that's got little small branches on it, the one with the larger branches, I'm going to go ahead and use this Woodland Scenics clump foliage. And it can come in a bag or one of the bottles. I don't have any of that with me, I just got it in a stash. And basically all it is these clumps right here. What I'm going to do with these clumps is this is going to help fill out portions on this tree. And as you can tell, you've got some spots that are small, some that are real thick, and that gives it that nature look. So what you'll do is you'll take your tree here and just stick it in here, spin it around, make sure you pick up some of these pieces. And what I'm going to do is rotate it just a little bit, spin off any of the excess, and then I've got this one piece here that's just kind of hanging, and I'm going to go ahead and just pull that little piece off. As you can see here, I've gone ahead and created a tree just based on that simple, easy step. Now, for a comparison here, this is going to be our pre-made tree, and if you look at the two, they look pretty similar. Alright, now some things I like to do on my trees when I finish them is, if you can see, it's just one color green. I take a little bit of, I don't know what exactly this one is, but I take a pinch of, this is a lighter color substance, and I just sprinkle a little bit of it over it. Gives it a little bit more texture, a little bit different look to it. I don't know if you can see the difference here on the camera, but I just sprinkle it across the top. I don't sprinkle it across like underneath. This is just different color leaves, just kind of shows a little bit of a difference, and kind of mixes up the consistency of this. So that tree's done. I'm gonna go ahead and knock out these other two trees here. Now, because this one here is a little bit different look than the other two, I'm going to change up the color of my foliage that I'm going to use. I'm going to use a little bit of a darker color foliage for this. Alright, I've got a little bit of a darker color in here, and we'll see how this one turns out. Basically, just after I've done, I've just kind of touched up just a little bit of areas, some pieces that are hanging. I kind of rotate them around, see if I can get them to stick better to the armatures. And basically all I do is I just press onto them and see if they'll stick a little bit better. But that's how you knock these trees out. As you can tell, you get a pretty realistic looking tree on an armature, and it's a lot cheaper than buying your pre-made trees. You can get a lot more for a lot less, and you get a little bit better nature look. All the trees don't look identical. So let's go ahead and place some of these trees on the layout. See how they look. Alright, now what I'm looking at doing here, I want to add this larger tree in this field over here. So what I'm going to want to do is actually remove this one. This is where I kind of learned what I like, what I don't like. And having this tree here, it just doesn't fill up the land as much as I wanted. I'm going to have to put a bunch of trees in this area, and still it's going to look inadequate and small. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to go ahead and pull this tree out of the area that I've got and remove some of this foliage here. It's not the same color as this one to kind of simulate fallen trees. As you can see here, I'm just going to replace that tree with this one, and we'll put it in that area. And it's going to look, as you can tell, it's a lot larger than the other tree. Kind of fills up the area just a little bit more. Looks a little bit more realistic for the scene that I've got. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually secure that tree into place. And to do this, I'm just going to use some foam tack glue. You can use regular white glue if you have it. For this portion, it doesn't really matter as long as it's a foam safe type of glue. And I'm going to go ahead and just place this piece, a little bit of glue right where I'm going to place it, and take the tree and place it right into that spot. Now this glue right here is going to dry clear, so I'm not going to have too big of an issue with that being there. What I can do is take a little bit of that same color foliage that we had just used to put that tree on, and I can kind of place that in and around the tree base. And we can go ahead and make that kind of fill out just a little bit more. And that white glue that glue that's right there, what I've used to put in the base of the tree trunk, will actually be covered up and secure that foliage that I put there. Looks like leaves, branches possibly have fallen there. Now if we look over here just a little bit, I've got a couple of these pine trees sitting in here. I want to add another tall tree in to make this scene complete. And I'll kind of rotate the camera around here so you can see what kind of a scene that I've got. I've got my road running in here. These will be my switching tracks for my coal mine. And then up here is going to be my loop track that goes around the mine. And this portion of grass right here, I'm going to want to go ahead and fill it in a little bit more. And I'm going to actually replace this tree here with the larger tree that I've made. This one. So come in here, delicately try to pull this tree out. I don't want to cause too much damage to the scenery. And as you can see, I pulled this whole tree out and I've done just a little bit of damage here, not too much. Alright, now I'm going to show you the technique here to use for leaving the base on the tree. Because on this one, I'm going to show you, if you want to use the base here, how to keep this portion on and develop this into your scene. I'm going to come in here, I've got my kind of putty knife a little bit, and I'm just going to scrape out the portion that I'm going to want to install this. I want it to be on a flat, smooth surface. You don't want to tear up too much of your scene. You just want to tear up just enough that you can get that kind of base in there. As you can see, place that in there, and that'll be about right size. What I'll do is I'll take my foam tack glue again, and I'll just kind of create a space, or a base of glue, the base to stick on. I'll come in here, just make sure everything gets glued, and place it. Now, obviously on this looks unrealistic just because we have the base showing. To get around that, I'm going to take a little bit of this scenic cement. I'm just going to kind of put a little bit of a coat on the base of this. I'm going to end up covering this up with foliage. Just a little bit, doesn't have to be too much. I'm going to take some of my blended turf, just kind of shake some of it over it. It'll kind of close this up, blend it in with the rest of the scenery. You can't even tell just by looking at that portion that the plastic base was even used. Now the plus side about using the plastic base is you can mount it on pretty much any kind of surface you want. Come in here with my brush and just kind of blend it in just a little bit more. But you can kind of mount that on any surface that you want. You can mount it on wood, foam, plaster, if you've got a flat surface and you don't want to drill into your layout. So this will be the scene that I've got finished up here. And you'll compare it to this building off here to the left. Building to the left here kind of gives you a comparison for the sizes of the trees. Now, just looking at the trees here, pretty impressed with the way this looks on this portion, except for the fact that I've got these two trees here. Something about these two trees is kind of throwing this off. So I'm actually going to go in here and I'm going to remove a couple of these. Now remember that in nature everything is not perfect. And why I'm saying this is I'm going to add another tree into this section here. Like these ones were mounted right next to this one where I had placed this tree. I don't like where that was at. So I'm going to come in here with this one, and I'm just going to find a spot in here to kind of fill up this void where I think this would look the best. And if you can see, I've got some ground foliage right in this area. I think that's going to be the best spot for this one. It kind of offsets it from these two trees. They're not in line. That kind of breaks it up just a little bit. So I'll come in here and I'll show you that drilling method I was talking about. Alright, so I've got this real fine drill bit on the end of my drill here. And like I told you, I want to mount it right in this general area. So I'm just going to take the drill bit here. All it's going to do is just put a little base pilot hole for me to mount this tree, so it will securely sit in that location. And I'll come in here, a little dab of glue in that area. I'm going to mount the tree. Come in here and just place it in that hole. Now that tree is securely fastened where I want it. Now what I've come to find out is drilling a hole to mount your tree in gives it that extra stability that you don't tear it up or move it around when you're working on something later on in the layout, cleaning track, replacing switches, what have you. Final thing I'm going to go ahead and show you here is, as I showed you before when I put that little dust on the top of these trees. This tree here I didn't put that dust on, and I'm going to show you when I just sprinkle a little bit of this dust over it. Just how much more this tree pops. It gives it a little bit more realism. And I do that with every tree that I've got on my layout. It just gives it that added extra texture to the tree to make it look final. Hope you guys enjoyed my layout or my tree making video. Hopefully you use a couple of these ideas. Comment, like, just give me more suggestions if you find a different technique that you use. I'd like to hear your comments.